essentially what this manipulation tactic is trying to do is it's trying to give you a bunch of good evidence and information for something when in actuality the overall message is evil and not true. So, for example, if you're a Christian, you'll understand this, but New Age Spiritism. So essentially, like grounding and meditation and manifestation, those are all real things, by the way. These are all real things, and you can actually use them for good. You can actually use them in good ways, but the devil entices you with the knowledge of those things and the habits of those things to get you to idolize yourself and to make yourself God. When I first became Christian, I kind of it was like right before I truly became Christian. I started getting really deep into New Age, and about a year before that, I was deep into Satanism and like discovering Satanism and the 48 laws of power and stuff like that. That are real things that can be used for good, but are also overwhelmingly bad. And I always saw New Age and grounding and manifestation and spiritual ascension and like and higher consciousness. I always saw those things as like, oh wow, that makes sense. This makes way more sense than, oh, Jesus died for me. Jesus is God. He's human and he's God at the same time. Like that didn't make sense to me as much as, oh, you can have a higher consciousness, and the higher consciousness, the more you can kind of reach heaven and nirvana. That all made much more sense to me than the Jesus died for you, repent and be saved. Like that didn't resonate as much with me. And I'm saying this as a Christian now. So what changed? What happened? What like convinced me of Christianity? Well, I guess there was a lot of things, but the reason why New Age is wrong is because it's trying to trick you and entice you with the same things that Satan tricked Adam and Eve with. If you eat the fruit, you will gain knowledge that we have, that God is specifically hiding from you. God's hiding things from you. If you just eat the fruit, you will have knowledge like us, and he doesn't want you to eat the fruit because he doesn't want you to have the knowledge. That is what the Adam and Eve garden story is all about. The Genesis, that's what it's all about. Is it's Adam and Eve being tempted by knowledge, and essentially it's a half truth because Satan is giving, like, Satan is technically right. Like, God is technically hiding knowledge from Adam and Eve, but he's hiding the fact that that knowledge is also very evil, very sinful, very dark, very impure. And the whole reason why God hid that knowledge from Adam and Eve was because he wanted Adam and Eve to have purity and to be perfect and without sin, without corruption, which corruption and sin and darkness and evil all comes from Satan. It's the knowledge of those things. Ultimately, God wanted it to be our choice. That's why he let Adam and Eve eat the fruit, because, well, it was their choice. They wanted the knowledge, they got the knowledge, but they also in turn get corruption, sin, darkness, pain, curses, like all these different kind of things. And so it just reminds me of New Age, because New Age is like so enticing, because New Age has all these very true things, and like, oh my goodness, trust me guys, when I was into New Age and into all this stuff, I felt very peaceful, I felt very good. But now that I've experienced God, I know it's a counterfeit. It's like a twisted version of the peace you could have in God, and it's a twisted version of the objective truth about the world we live in. Like, it's just blatantly obvious that when you actually like see it for what it is, that we are being deceived by something that looks good and is kind of true, but is ultimately twisted in an evil way. So New Age is real. Trust me. Manifestation, crystals, even astrology. People make fun of astrology, but astrology is actually technically real, because it's like good and bad. I mean, it's all bad in my opinion, but good and bad curses that you are basically, when you come into agreement with those things, you become those things. But that also includes the bad stuff that comes with it. So you say, oh, sorry, I'm just a Taurus, I get cranky or whatever. Well, you are also coming into agreement with all the other things that Taurus is supposedly okay, let me just tell you about the trap of astrology for a second. Astrology is evil because you can come into agreement with your astrology sign and all the things that comes with it, And oh, it's all cute, like oh, you're emotional, or oh, you're cranky, or oh, you're funny, oh, you're organized. Like you can come into agreement with all those things, but it also entices you to come into agreement with everything. So if you're a Libra and it says, oh, Libra, if you have Libra rising or Libra moon, I'm just making this up by the way, you're gonna die young. You're gonna um, have a risk of heart disease. I don't know, just random stuff like that. Oh, you're gonna struggle with relationships. I don't know. Even if it's a negative thing and you consciously don't want to come into agreement with it, you are subconsciously still coming into agreement with it because you agree with the Libra stuff, the Libra horoscope, and the traits of a Libra. So you just kind of automatically agree with it, and that's how you get cursed. And so it's all like seemingly positive things. Again, grounding and manifestation. You can actually manifest things. We are literally spiritual creatures that can manifest things just by our words and the spiritual impact we have on the universe and the world around us. We can literally impact our environment. So if we say good words or positive words to like water will literally respond to that and start becoming more beautiful and crystallized and united. The water crystals, the water molecules. But if you say negative words, mean words, with evil intent, negative intent, then you will actually make the water gross and separated and not united anymore. So if we have that effect on nature, I mean that just proves that the studies that have shown that just proves that this like new age is real. So we know the knowledge is real. We know that it's good for us. We know that it feels good. So why isn't it true? Why isn't like spiritual ascension and all these things true? Why isn't this like the true religion, the true meaning of the universe, the true explanation for things? It is, but it's not. It's missing the other half of the equation. It's specifically trying to entice you with this knowledge and these like desires so that it distracts you from the gospel message, which is that Jesus died for you. He loves you. God of the universe loves you so much that he became a man to die for your sins, to be the sacrifice, the final Judaic sacrifice on the cross. He took the pain that we deserve because, well, okay, sorry, I don't mean to go on another tangent, but let's just explain this. Because you could think in your head like, okay, why do we deserve hell? We're humans, God made us, we rejected God. Why do we deserve hell? Why do we get hell in return for rejecting God? The reason why, and this is so mind-blowing, if I would have heard this before I was Christian, oh my goodness, my head would have exploded because it all makes sense. The reason why we deserve hell and why we get hell if we don't go to God and turn to God is because pain and suffering and misery and anxiety and depression, all these bad things automatically come from corruption and sin and darkness and not having God. God is the source of peace, love, joy, happiness, contentment, purity, innocence. All of these good positive attributes in the world that we feel at least a little bit all come from God. The corrupted bad things all come from the devil. So if we choose the devil and his ways over God's ways, then automatically God grants our wish and lets us go to a place that is without him. Simply stated, in this lifetime, if you choose a life without God, God will grant your wish by giving you eternity after your death without him. Again, the only dark part about this is eternity without God is actually really, really bad and really dark and really miserable. And again, you might just say, okay, well, I've chosen not to have God in my life. Why am I not miserable now? Well, to some extent you are, to be honest. You're not happy. You're not at peace. You're not joyful. You're not just smiling autistically all the time because your life is so good. That's not who you are. At the same time, God's peace, God's love, God's joy, God's all these God good attributes, his happiness, all these things are still on the earth, whether you like it or not. We don't have an option. We get to experience it on earth, at least to some extent. And if I had to guess, you probably don't lie 24/7. You probably don't steal 24/7. You probably don't curse at people 24/7. So by default, you are experiencing a little bit of God because you're not 24/7 like sinning. You're still doing some of the things that are of God, like telling the truth and being a decent human being, even without God. So because of that, well, we are not fully miserable. But of course, the more we do the good things and the less we do the bad things, the more we're gonna be happy and feel that heavenly feeling on earth. That's why I'm deep into self-improvement. I preach self-improvement. I preach spirituality. I preach these things because if you just become more like God and you become better, then you're gonna be happier by default because that is God's default setting. You want to know why everything in the Bible, if you do those things that it commands you to do, like telling the truth and being nice to your neighbor and not stealing, not killing, if you do these things, you actually feel better. And that's how we know it's the objective morality. If there's something that isn't objectively good, we're gonna feel at least a little bad about it, even if it kind of feels pleasurable or joyful in the moment. In the long term, it affects us negatively and causes problems. That's how we know it's objective. I just thought about that and wanted to make a video because, oh my goodness, I was so deep into New Age. I thought I was so interesting. I thought I was so, like, this has to be the truth. This has to be the truth of the universe. But in actuality, there's a twisted dark side to it. And don't get me wrong, you can still practice those things, but it can't be focused on yourself. It can't be idolizing yourself. It has to be about God. It has to be about selflessness and has to have good motive, good intentions. Let me know what your thoughts are on New Age or if you have any experience with New Age. I love you all and I'll see you all in the next video.